Are seniors, disabled individuals, and working families at risk of losing one of the most important housing tools in America? That's the question on everyone's mind as talks of federal cuts and voucher freezes grow louder. The Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, including its homeownership option, has helped millions secure safe homes, build stability, and even transition from renting to owning. But now, major shifts in federal housing policy could change everything, especially for the most vulnerable groups who rely on this support to survive. In this video, we'll break down what's really happening behind the scenes, what you need to prepare for, and how to take action before it's too late. So whether you're a current voucher holder, a caregiver, or a housing advocate, this video is for you. We'll explain how the Section 8 program works, what the homeownership option really offers, and what happens if funding dries up. Stay with us until the end because we'll tell you exactly how to protect your rights, respond to cuts, and avoid losing the housing benefits you or your clients count on. And if you've got questions or real-life experiences with Section 8, drop them in the comments. We want to hear from you. The Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program is one of the most vital housing assistance tools provided by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. It allows low-income individuals, families, seniors, and people with disabilities to live in safe, decent, and affordable private housing. What makes this program so unique is that it doesn't restrict participants to public housing projects. Instead, voucher holders can rent from private landlords, apartments, townhomes, or single-family houses, so long as the unit meets HUD standards and the landlord agrees to accept vouchers. Under this program, recipients typically pay 30% of their monthly adjusted income toward rent and utilities, while the federal government, through local public housing authorities, PHAs, pays the rest directly to the landlord. The program is needs-based and uses specific income limits that vary by region and household size. To qualify, your income usually must not exceed 50% of the median income for your area, and in most cases, PHAs are required to target at least 75% of new admissions to families with incomes at or below 30% of the area median income. Section 8 is not an entitlement program, meaning not everyone who qualifies will get help due to limited funding. That's why waitlists can be long and unpredictable. Once approved, families get flexibility on where to live, including sometimes moving to different cities or states under a rule called portability, which we'll explain later. Section 8 isn't just about renting. It's also a launchpad for long-term stability, and in some cases, a pathway to homeownership. Section 8 is more than a housing voucher. It's a lifeline, especially for older adults, disabled individuals, and working low-income families who are struggling to keep up with rising rent costs. For seniors living on fixed incomes such as Social Security or Supplemental Security Income, SSI, affordable housing is critical. The Section 8 program ensures that they never have to pay more than 30% of their adjusted income on rent and utilities, giving them a measure of financial breathing room. This helps prevent homelessness, housing instability, and the tough choice between rent and essentials like medication, food, or transportation. Additionally, many PHAs provide accessibility accommodations for elderly and disabled residents, such as modified units, case management, or proximity to medical services. For working families, especially those earning minimum wage or juggling multiple part-time jobs, Section 8 helps bridge the gap between earnings and real-world housing costs. According to HUD, over 2.2 million families nationwide benefit from housing choice vouchers. These include single-parent households, essential workers, and caregivers trying to balance job responsibilities while raising children. In many cases, Section 8 support enables families to live in safer neighborhoods, closer to schools or job centers, creating long-term opportunities for economic advancement. Without these vouchers, many of these households would face eviction or be forced into overcrowded, unsafe housing situations. Section 8 is not just about paying rent, it's about restoring dignity, independence, and opportunity for those who need it most. The Section 8 Homeownership Program is a lesser-known but incredibly powerful extension of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. It allows eligible families who already have rental vouchers to use that same assistance toward purchasing a home and covering monthly mortgage payments instead of rent. This groundbreaking initiative was launched to help low-income families, seniors, and disabled individuals build equity and transition from renting to home ownership, a key step in achieving financial stability and generational wealth. Unlike traditional home buying programs, the Section 8 homeownership option doesn't require perfect credit or high earnings. Instead, it focuses on helping responsible renters who meet specific criteria take the next step toward owning their own homes. To qualify, participants must be first-time homebuyers, complete a HUD-approved housing counseling program, and meet income and employment requirements. For instance, most participants must have at least one adult working full-time for at least 1 year, unless they're elderly or disabled. There's usually a minimum income requirement of at least 2,000 hours of annual wages at federal minimum wage, roughly $15,000 to $18,000 annually, depending on the area. PHAs may also require a small down payment and a decent credit history. Once approved, the housing voucher can be applied to monthly mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, and some maintenance costs. For many families, this program has made it possible to go from decades of renting to building lasting wealth through home ownership. And yet, this life-changing pathway is now facing threats due to potential federal funding cuts and policy changes. In states like Louisiana, the Section 8 homeownership program has become a beacon of hope for many low-income residents dreaming of owning a home. Public housing authorities, PHAC in cities such as New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and Shreveport, have adopted HUD's optional homeownership model to help voucher holders transition from renters to homeowners. These PHAs typically partner with local mortgage lenders, real estate professionals, and HUD-certified housing counselors to guide participants through the buying process. Once a participant is approved, their monthly Housing Choice Voucher is used to pay a portion of their mortgage, similar to how it would pay rent. The participant is responsible for paying the rest, usually around 30% of their adjusted monthly income. This setup enables qualified residents to afford a mortgage with terms they otherwise couldn't secure through traditional financing. What makes Louisiana especially noteworthy is how the program has empowered communities of color, seniors, and single working mothers to escape generational poverty. Many participants begin their housing journey by renting with a voucher and then gradually build credit, savings, and readiness for homeownership. Over the past decade, hundreds of families in Louisiana have become first-time homeowners through this program. However, many residents now face uncertainty due to budget threats at the federal level. Some PHAs have paused intake for the homeownership option or warned of possible funding constraints. Counseling services may be reduced. Lenders may pull back from participation, and clients already on track to buy a home may face longer wait times or more difficult approval processes. These challenges highlight just how important it is to protect this pathway and educate communities about their rights and options before cuts take full effect. Over the last few years, the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program has faced increasing pressure from federal budget proposals that aim to reduce funding for low-income housing assistance. These proposals, including some presented during President Donald Trump's administration, have suggested deep cuts as high as 25% in certain HUD funding categories. While many of these proposals were not enacted into law, the political climate around housing assistance has created instability, leading some public housing authorities, PHAs, to freeze new voucher issuance, delay program expansions, or scale back homeownership counseling services. The FY 2024 and FY 2025 proposed budgets included billions in housing cuts, citing deficit control and federal debt reduction as justification. However, such cuts would directly impact millions of Americans relying on Section 8 to survive. A voucher freeze doesn't necessarily mean current voucher holders lose their benefits, but it often means no new families are accepted, even if they're eligible. In some cities, voucher waitlists have been closed for over a decade, and funding uncertainties have only made the problem worse. Additionally, PHAs have warned that if federal support continues to decline, they may not be able to renew existing vouchers at the same levels, and some landlords may back out due to late payments. This also applies to the home ownership option, as the program requires coordination with lenders and counselors. Reduced budgets can shrink staff, slow approvals, and even limit how many mortgage payments PHAs can help cover each year. If these proposed cuts become law, thousands of families currently on the path to home ownership could see their dreams delayed or derailed. If the Section 8 home ownership program is cut or frozen due to federal budget changes, the consequences would be both immediate and long-term, particularly for those who are already enrolled or preparing to transition from renting to home ownership. First, let's clarify. Current homeowners already using their vouchers to help pay their mortgage are not likely to lose their assistance overnight. Most PHAs aim to honor existing contracts, and HUD typically protects those already in the program. However, new applicants or renters hoping to use the homeownership option in the near future could be left in limbo. With counseling programs paused, mortgage approval pathways narrowed, and fewer lenders willing to partner, families who have worked for years to prepare for homeownership may find their path suddenly blocked. Even worse, a freeze in this program can discourage banks from working with low-impact buyers, removing a critical support structure in the process. Another consequence of cuts or freezes is the gradual erosion of equity-building opportunities for low-income Americans. Unlike renting, home ownership allows families to build generational wealth, gain financial independence, and invest in their communities. Without support from Section 8 homeownership, many of these families, especially seniors, single mothers, and disabled individuals, will remain renters indefinitely, paying more over time without gaining ownership rights or financial security. In areas like Louisiana, where housing costs continue to rise, this could deepen economic disparities. The loss of the homeownership option doesn't just hurt individuals, it weakens entire neighborhoods by reducing the number of stable, invested homeowners. For housing advocates, the fear isn't just that this program will be cut, it's that it will quietly disappear without anyone realizing the true cost until it's too late. Given the looming uncertainty surrounding Section 8 funding and the home ownership program, it's critical that seniors, low-income families, and advocates take proactive steps now to protect their housing benefits. First and foremost, stay in regular contact with your local public housing authority, PH. PHAs are the frontline administrators of the voucher and home ownership programs and often post critical updates on funding status, waitlist openings, and any changes to program eligibility. Many PHAs allow you to register for email alerts or text notifications to stay informed. If you're currently renting with a voucher and interested in transitioning to homeownership, request information about the homeownership voucher option now, even if intake is temporarily paused. Getting on a list or beginning the counseling process early can place you ahead of others if funding resumes. Additionally, begin preparing your financial and housing documentation, even if you're not yet eligible. That includes pay stubs, benefit letters like Social Security or SSDI, proof of residency, rental history, and copies of your credit report. If you're planning to use a voucher to buy a home, start exploring local first-time homebuyer programs that may offer grants or down payment assistance. Many of these programs can be combined with Section 8 vouchers once approved. Also, familiarize yourself with HUD's homeownership counseling requirements and locate approved agencies in your area. For renters who are portable, meaning you've had your voucher for at least a year, you may also explore transferring your benefits to a different city or state where the homeownership option is still available or better supported. Taking these steps now ensures that if and when funding returns or expands, you're ready to act without delay. When it comes to saving critical programs like Section 8 housing and homeownership, community advocacy is one of the most powerful tools we have. While these programs are federally funded, local voices have a huge impact on how dollars are distributed and whether elected officials prioritize affordable housing. Start by reaching out to your local, state, and federal representatives. Call or write your members of Congress, especially those on committees related to housing, appropriations, or HUD oversight. Share how the Section 8 program has helped you or someone you know. Real stories carry emotional weight, and elected officials are far more likely to protect funding when they hear directly from their constituents. You can also join public hearings or submit online testimony during local housing meetings or HUD consultations, especially during budget planning season. In addition, consider joining or supporting local housing coalitions and advocacy groups. Organizations like the National Low Income Housing Coalition, NLIHC, Louisiana Fair Housing Action Center, and Housing Louisiana regularly campaign for more robust funding and stronger housing protections. These groups provide tools, talking points, and petitions that make it easier for individuals to take action. Social media can also be a powerful tool. Sharing videos like this one, tweeting lawmakers, or posting your story on Facebook or Instagram can draw attention to the issue and build public support. Most importantly, don't stay silent. The future of affordable housing and the ability for low-income families to move from renters to owners depends on all of us raising our voices before it's too late. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development plays a central role in managing and funding the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, including the optional homeownership component. While local public housing authorities, PHAs, administer the day-to-day operations, HUD sets the national policy, allocates the funding, and oversees how vouchers are distributed across states and regions. Each year, HUD submits a budget to Congress as part of the President's federal spending plan. Once approved, HUD determines how many vouchers can be issued, how much assistance each area will receive, and which PHAs will get the green light to support homeownership programs. This makes HUD a gatekeeper of affordable housing, but also a target for cuts when national budget debates heat up. The good news is that HUD has some flexibility even when facing a reduced budget. In recent years, HUD has used emergency funding to prevent evictions, sustain existing voucher contracts, and maintain homeownership supports for seniors and disabled individuals. HUD can also issue waivers or policy changes to streamline access, extend deadlines, or reduce administrative burdens for PHAs. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, HUD allowed remote counseling and temporary eligibility relaxations to keep families housed. That said, real changes often depend on congressional negotiations and the final approved budget, especially for fiscal years like 2025, where massive cuts have been proposed. This means HUD may still make adjustments in response to public pressure, advocacy, or legal challenges. Keeping a close eye on HUD updates, press releases, and policy memos is essential for anyone involved in Section 8 housing right now. Many viewers, advocates, and care providers have important questions about how the Section 8 housing and homeownership programs actually work, especially in times of uncertainty. One of the most common questions is, can I use my voucher to buy a home in another state? The answer is yes, if your public housing authority permits it, and if the receiving PHA also administers the homeownership program. This process is known as portability. After 1 year of successful voucher use as a renter, most participants gain the right to transfer their assistance across state lines. But the new PHA must accept the homeownership option and have funding available. That's why planning ahead and checking availability with both PHAs is crucial. Another frequent question is, if I'm elderly or disabled and don't work, do I still qualify for the homeownership program? The answer is yes. The work requirement is waived for seniors and people with disabilities. However, participants must still meet the minimum income requirement, which often includes Social Security, SSDI, or other stable income sources. Housing counseling is still mandatory for everyone, regardless of age or ability. People also ask, how long does the process take from application to home purchase? While this varies by PHA, the average timeline is 6 to 12 months, assuming you complete counseling, secure financing, and find an eligible home. And no, Section 8 homeownership does not reduce your Social Security check or impact your taxes. Your voucher is not treated as taxable income. These kinds of questions matter deeply, and they reveal how essential it is to protect the program from being quietly dismantled. The Section 8 housing and homeownership programs are not just government services. They are bridges to stability, dignity, and long-term opportunity for millions of Americans. For seniors living on fixed incomes, the program prevents homelessness and ensures they can age in place with peace of mind. For disabled individuals, it provides safe and accessible housing, with support systems in place. For working families, it offers a rare chance to escape the cycle of rent dependency and move toward real asset building through homeownership. When these programs are fully funded and properly managed, they create ripple effects, healthier communities, reduced poverty, and increased school and job stability for children and adults alike. But when they are frozen, cut, or allowed to quietly shrink, the harm goes far beyond housing. It damages lives, dreams, and entire neighborhoods. And as we've seen through examples from Louisiana and across the nation, families have already transformed their lives through these programs, people who were once renters and are now homeowners building wealth. Losing the homeownership option would not only shut the door on that path, but send a message that low-income Americans are undeserving of a place to call their own. This is why we must fight to protect and expand these options. Section 8 is not a handout, it's a stepping stone. And in a country where housing costs continue to skyrocket, preserving and improving programs like this is not just policy, it's justice. If we remain informed, organized, and vocal, we can ensure that housing remains a right, not a privilege. If you or someone you know relies on Section 8 or dreams of owning a home through the Homeownership Voucher Program, this is your moment to act. These programs are under serious pressure, and the only way they survive is if everyday Americans speak up. Whether you're a senior on Social Security, a disabled individual living on fixed income, or a working parent trying to provide a better future, your voice matters. Tell us in the comments, are you currently using Section 8? Have you tried to access the homeownership option? Are you worried about losing housing support? We want to hear your story. Your input not only helps others feel less alone, but it also guides the future videos we create to protect your rights and bring you updates that matter most. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Social Security Post, and turn on notifications so you never miss another housing or benefit update. In our next video, we'll reveal the signs to watch for if your local PHA is about to freeze vouchers and how to challenge decisions that may put your housing at risk. Stay with us until the end of that video because we'll share tips on how to safeguard your place in the system even if federal support is reduced. Until then, stay strong, stay informed, and stay connected. Together, we can fight back against cuts and keep these life-changing programs alive for generations to come.